Hi, Judy.
Hi, Leah.
Welcome to another episode of the Anatomy of Ancestral Alchemy. I am Leah Constance,
And I am Judy, who?
and today we are going to be talking about,
How to have energetic boundaries in your life around everything,
I love that.
basically. So
I love that. That was so good.
just zoom out for a second.
True.
Everything. It's a little crazy out there, okay? So the work that I do with my clients is how to have healthy boundaries. It's like psychological and energetic boundaries to yourself, to others, and the larger community. And I've been recently in this program that Leah just happened to also sign up for, which is so synchronistic, which is energetic boundaries around the dead. And so that when I say like around everything, that's what I meant. Is that what you're laughing about?
Yeah, but also the very realness of everything right now. I was laughing because it felt so true, right? To be like, and everything, all of it and everything. Because, right, there are boundaries on different realms, right? There's the psychological boundaries, the emotional boundaries, the physical boundaries, the energetic and spiritual boundaries. So, yeah, the class that we're taking is more akin to the energetic spiritual realm.
Right. Which when I took it, I knew I needed it, but the way that Daniel, for the founder of this work called Ancestral Medicine, is he was like, yeah, how to have healthy boundaries around the dead. And I was like, what did I land in? And now I'm like, oh my God, this is what I totally needed. Leah and I were just chatting before recording, and it was just like, this is a skill I think everyone needs because the time in our lives right now and what's happening in the world, practicing how to have energetic boundaries is going to be really necessary for everyone right now.
Yes. And one of the reasons I think it's going to be so necessary is Daniel talked a lot in our first class about how over time in history, there have been people whose role it is in society to actually work with the dead, and how, for lots of reasons, that's been conditioned out of our way of being, right? So for people that are very open channels, now they're really knocking
Mhm.
because there's this whole backlog, all these tragedies, these events that have quite literally killed people, and now those people are knocking.
Right.
And they're both blood ancestors and not blood ancestors.
Right.
And so for people that are very open or entering that realm, the pressure and the burden that's going to be put on them is pretty enormous, which is why I think people are feeling really overwhelmed. To your point of now, in this particular time in history, we're going to need to learn to set these boundaries even more. Yeah.
And so just to clarify something like knocking, right? So for instance, I am a highly sensitive person. Some call it empath, like intuitive, whatever it is. If any of you identify yourself as like highly sensitive, or you go into a room and you can tell like how everyone's feeling or someone's not happy or whatever, you can sense it. Those are the people that are, in my mind, going to feel very overwhelmed because it's coming at us in all different directions, right? Social media, family members, work relationships, and then psychically, like through all these non-living spaces. And so understanding that there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing wrong with them. What's the data telling you? The data is there's so much shit that has not been digested and cleared out.
Yeah.
And so this skill that we're trying to teach today is one of the ways to keep your energetic body cleaned and protected during these times when there's a lot of input coming at us in record rates, amounts, and directions. So our last episode was about how to discern truth in the midst of chaos. And so having these energetic boundaries is a continuation of that skill building.
Yes. I love that. Yeah. So I'll share something I hold with me a lot and that I share with a lot of my clients and I remind myself, which is that anytime anything is a relationship, it's inherently a two-way street. So anytime you're in relationship with anything, the healthy way of being in relationship with that thing is to have a two-way energetic relationship, right? Give and take. And I think for a long time, so many of us have felt, mainly because this knowledge has been stripped away from so many of us, that the relationship is actually different when it's in the spiritual or the liminal. That we just have to take whatever is coming at us, even if it's benevolent and positive. And the reality is that even when you're in relationship with spirit, boundaries are important.
And consent.
And consent.
Yes. Is it okay if I bring that down from the spiritual realm to just current?
Yeah.
Because there is a reason why so many people have a hard time with healthy boundaries. Because if we knew what healthy boundaries were, we would not tolerate 99% of what we tolerate right now. Okay. So we have, as a people, been conditioned to either go codependent, right? So enmeshed, like our value is contingent on something outside of ourselves, whether we're in a relationship, have children, wealthy, thin, whatever it is, right?
Mhm.
That our wholeness, our worth is connected to something outside of us. And so that's codependent relationship. It's enmeshed.
Yeah.
The other way that we're taught is the right way is anti-dependent. So
Mhm.
very rigid boundaries, only self-centered, not community-centered, divided and isolated.
Mhm.
And so those are the two natural polarities because it's the easiest to control. Okay? Because it's okay, no, you have to do what everyone tells you to do to be the right way.
Mhm.
Or it's like divided and just focus on you. Don't worry, don't care about anybody else because it's all about survival.
Yeah.
So the healthy boundary that Leah was talking about in relationship is if I am as worthy as Leah, no more, no less, regardless of if I hurt someone or if I do something good or bad, right? And I use the image of like same size circles, right? Everyone's the same size no matter where they're born, how much money they have, whatever. If I am the same value, worth, I'm going to be the same size. And that means I am in my boundary. So if I'm a
Mhm.
circle, I would be in my boundary, discerning, using my body, what I want, what I don't want, who I am, who I don't want to be. And that, digesting all of the emotions that come up, I'm in charge of that to figure out how I want to be in the world. Okay, so that's my space. Leah does that same work in her circle or in her body, right? Figuring out what Leah wants, what she doesn't want, all this other stuff. And then when we come together, it's two solid circles and we're just figuring out, okay, I want to do this podcast. Do you want to do this podcast?
Mhm.
And then we are negotiating how we do this together. And we constantly come back and say, it's not feeling safe. How can we do this? Figuring out contractually, relationally, present time, what feels good and what doesn't. And so that is a healthy boundary where I constantly give Leah informed consent and we come up with ideas that work for both of our bodies. And Leah does the same. So that is what a healthy relational boundary looks like. Okay. So again, boundary is the separation from me and the separation from Leah. And then we negotiate the relationship between us.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
No, I just had an image when you were talking your way through that of a Venn diagram, and where the circles overlap is the negotiation room, and then the lines around that little sliver in the middle is the boundary, right? That's the line that separates what's mine and what's our shared experience.
And there are appropriate times where we set a rigid boundary, which is like that anti-dependence, like this huge separation is when the relationship is not healthy.
Yeah.
When it's toxic. Okay. So then I can create like it's skin. If you do video games, you figure out what kind of covering. Then I'll have a rigid boundary that's not porous at all.
Yeah.
To protect my internal space, my psyche, my energetic boundary is when I create that very rigid, hard boundary. So I'm not influenced by someone else. That makes sense?
Yeah, totally. Helps you find your inner knowing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because what I want is important.
Yeah.
What I want is informed by my childhood, my family of origin, my current family that I'm responsible for, my finances, my home, like all of those things are valid data points that I need to consider for what's good for me.
Yes.
And the key is I protect myself as much as I protect someone else. Because if it means I'm going to hoard resources so that Leah doesn't have anything, that's not okay. Because if I'm the same size circle, I have as much right to the resources around us, then I need to consider I cannot take Leah's resources.
Can't take it all.
I can't take it all because Leah is as important as me. And we, each of us, are as important as other people, no matter where they live. It's considering our needs and wants are as important as other people and the planet.
Yes.
The land that we live on, that we consider the impact.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just touched into the different relationships we have, right? Like, how often do we not ask our pets for consent? How often do we not ask plants if they want to be picked? Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
I just want to say, like, in case that language is uncomfortable for you, what do you mean ask a plant if they want to be picked for your bouquet? It's a different way of being. And it's not better or worse, it's just a different way. So what you can do is you can listen to it, run it through your body and your nervous system to see how it lands.
Yeah.
We're not saying this is the only way, okay? We're saying this is the way that we experience the world, and this is the outcome for us, okay? So in all of this, informed consent. If it doesn't land for you, let it go, ignore it, okay? That is the way of healthy boundaries, is honoring that other people have different ways. And so we're just inviting you into a way that works for us.
Yeah. 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 Something has majorly shifted in my life since I've been more thoughtful to ask for consent outside of human relationship. Yeah. It's quite incredible.
I was just listening to the audiobook, The Secret Life of Trees, and understanding how they communicate with each other and how they are in the world. I walk by and I just put my hand on and just can practice sensing. And it's so invigorating.
Yeah.
It's no longer this inanimate object that I just use for shade. It's a relational, like, ancestor and a sibling kind of thing. And it's just fun for me when I do that. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And consent, permission, and boundaries in the energetic and spiritual realm.
Yes, thank you for regrounding us down.
No, you did a great job of grounding it down to human relationship first. Thank you for that. So first, I think I want to ask our listeners to just give some thought to what that means for them. What does energetic and spiritual boundaries mean for you? What does that mean for you? What do you include in that? So for me, there's a lot I include in that at this point in my life, and they're all a little bit different. But I think for the topic of this specific episode, the two things I've been thinking about a lot more recently are ancestors and the other dead that have passed. The other dead. Yeah, the other dead that have passed is redundant. The other dead, whether ancestor or not. And I think particularly because of what I said previously, which is I think more people that are open channels, HSPs, people that are stepping in, especially I think about this a lot with psychedelic work since I offer psychedelic integration and ketamine assisted psychotherapy, is medicine will open you up in a way you do not expect. And I feel like this is a topic that's not talked a ton about in learning spaces. And so knowing that more and more people are called to do that work for themselves, it's important to be aware that it does open you up psychically in a way that's different than our ordinary way of being. Even for those of us that are also already highly sensitive, it takes it to another level oftentimes. I'll just give a very quick example of that. The last really big medicine experience I had, I was dropped into somebody else's veins, literally, and saw a very intense process unfold for their ancestors. not my own, but their ancestors. And I'm still wondering why and making meaning of that. But for me, it wasn't even that I was dropped into my own, I was dropped into somebody else's and witnessed things that happened to their ancestors. I'm also having more clients show up and say, I just had this experience and this is what I'm understanding about my ancestors from this medicine experience I just had. So in that realm, it's becoming more prevalent for people too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think I'm seeing a larger unfolding in society where people are actually understanding the ancestral work that is really necessary right now.
Yeah.
I started off as a boundary coach, and then the groups that I lead are now naturally doing ancestral like clearing, right? So it's like we start off with, no, I have this hard time with my romantic partner, and then the charge is so big that we're connecting it and landing it back to patriarchy and how it's impacted those assigned female at birth. And so when we clear out where it comes from, the origination, the current situation feels less charged because we're clearing out to the root of it. And so what people are understanding now, and I'm seeing so many groups, which is so exciting, is that to do the ancestral work, the generational and collective trauma clearing work, we get to be much more present in our lives rather than reactive.
Yeah.
Because when we clear it out, when we clear out that baggage of, oh, this is not mine that I'm experiencing right now. This is like collective trauma, or it's ancestral trauma, or it's from my childhood. I'm able to put that baggage down and I'm not so mired and confused. And so it's really another way of looking at it is clearing out the energetic impact of epigenetics, how our DNA is impacted by trauma, ancestral impact. And so it just gets more and more clear and clean what's happening in the body.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those of you that are well versed in IFS and parts work, the way that I would describe what Judy just did is it helps us be in self energy a bit more, right? Again, to understand like what is purely ours or our access to source versus parts that are reactive to trauma that our ancestors have experienced. And that doesn't mean it's not important at all, or that we will suddenly not become conscious of it. It's just separating and creating enough distance, kind of like you all have probably heard this. See if you can imagine that what's happening, you're watching on a TV, to give yourself that like spatial distance. Like really what we're creating in the body physically, when I lean into how it physically shows up for me, it's like I get a little bit of distance and separation, and then I can clearly feel myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because when we're imagining we're in it,
Yeah.
like in 3D, it's so activating in the body because of our mirror neurons. Like we're just, even if we're imagining it and it's not happening, the body thinks we're in the middle of that war or that situation. Versus when you flatten it or distance it, externalize it from your experience, and then look at it from this like third person point of view as an observer. I just had a big breath. I can feel it much more. I have space rather than, so I can then give myself a chance to respond to the situation versus react if I'm in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and even a great example of that is sometimes I've literally felt like there was an ancestor that was like right on the back of my neck. And I'm like, that is too close for me. My living ancestors don't sit at the back of my neck. That would be too close for comfort all the time. They might be me or sitting across the room, but they're not right on the back of my neck. Yeah. Yeah.
So what are some ways that you create some like healthy boundaries for yourself? What's your like energy hygiene is? Yeah.
Yeah, in Celtic culture, I have Celtic ancestry. What some people may refer to as like smoke clearing is called saining, Saining. So for those of you that may have Celtic ancestry, that's important to know. I didn't know that there was actually a word that some of my ancestors used for that, but that's what it's called, saining. And that is a practice that is very alive and well in my home and workspace. Sometimes it might be a spray clearing as well, but usually if I can, it's smoke, and I'll open up windows. I will pick an herb of choice. Usually for me, that's juniper. Juniper has like the very similar qualities that some of you might know Palo Santo to be very adept at, which is that plant asks any malevolent or spirits that are unwelcome to not be present, but it allows the remaining benevolent ones to stay. And so I appreciate that because there are times where that's the specific boundary that I want. And then there are plant allies from different traditions that actually banish all energy, all spirits, right? So for a harder, impermeable boundary, to your earlier point, Judy, those plants would be really good for creating space that's very fortified. And then you can put anything into that space that you want to call in that moment, right? Clearing it, all of it, and then calling in, like sometimes for me, it's often rose is a big one that I will use that's very cross-cultural in a lot of ways too, as the energy to bring into the space that's now void of anything.
An example of what would be that plant medicine that clears everything out?
Yes. So I would really recommend if you are a white person to really do your due diligence of checking this one out. Do not use it because it does not resonate for me or my lineage, but sage is one that will clear everything.
Okay.
And a lot of people are not aware of that actually, that it voids the entire space. And then there are other ones in different lineages that will do the same thing. But that's a very common one that people do use and engage with. So that is my understanding about sage, white sage in particular. And so that's more of like the clearing practice. Another clearing practice is I have a spiritual guide that I work with that helps me clear space as well. So I will call them in and ask for support around that. Crystals are another great one for space clearing. Selenite is, in my opinion, like top notch for energy clearing. I have little pieces of selenite all around this room for that reason.
And sound. I use a
And
bell.
sound. Yeah, great point. Even snapping. If you don't have anything with you, snapping can be really good for that, or clapping. It's anything that's like literally shaking up the stagnant energy and has some vibration to it. Yeah.
And then in addition to that, I think setting the intention. So if I'm clapping and I'm going, I want all the negative spirits to leave.
Yeah. Yep.
Including if I'm spraying or if I'm saging. I do use sage in my office space because I do so much work there. I just want to be super clear. Yeah. And scents for me as well.
Yeah.
Help.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I would say that's like the clearing practice to fortify like external boundaries outside of myself and my home. Salt's a really great one. Yeah. So there's so many practices, but I feel like if you're getting into the super specifics, this is where the ancestral work is so helpful because then your power, in my experience, only becomes more powerful if it's connected into your lineages, right? There are times where when I was really early in my spiritual practice, I just didn't quite understand why I didn't fully resonate with certain plants or tools. And now I get it. I'm like, oh, that actually was not mine to carry. That was not necessarily mine to use. It's different if you're fully initiated, and that's a whole other topic of conversation. But for me, I found that things only become more powerful the more that we connect into our lineages and their tools.
Yes. Yeah.
But boundaries is really good for all of us to learn. Yeah. And even that is culturally dependent to some degree, right? Looking about how different cultures set boundaries is a very interesting conversation too. Yeah. Anything else that you would add as like a tool for physical boundary clearing?
So when I feel completely overwhelmed, I will literally go and take a shower and then imagine the shower of these are like clearing my energy, my body, and inviting the presence or the power of the water to drain it off of me. And if I don't have access to water or shower in the moment, I'll imagine myself going through either a light or a car wash or something that just, because I think because of the power of our minds, when we imagine it, it can happen. And so that's, I guess, my only other addition is to literally wash it away or imagine washing it away.
Yeah. Yeah, and you bring up such an important topic, which is the elementals. So water, air, earth, fire can all be used, and spirit, if you work with a clearing guide, can all be used as tools for setting boundaries and space clearing. Yeah. Thank you for that. So the dead. Do you want to share your invocation that you were really appreciating?
To start off, the invocation that I learned from one of the practitioners is that I'm learning from is like calling in like a specific kind of energy, which is my intention is to connect to wise and well ancient ancestors. And so their children may be raised into wellness too. And what I like about that invocation is it's calling in a specific, like healthy ancestor, wise and so their energy is clear, clean, right? In the sense of they're not dealing with certain traumas that they're carrying with them. They're actually grounded and connected to their own light. And the relational piece is so that their children may be raised into wellness too. They're my ancestor, so I'm their child, right? So it's this bi-directional relationship too. I'm not calling in these ancestors and then extracting from them.
Right. It's that two-way street.
It's that two-way street. I'm going to be honoring them by committing myself to raise my wellness, right? Because clearing behind clears forward, right? It's this quantum healing of you do it all at the same time. But the invocation is important because you're making the intention clear so it can be fully informed consent on both sides.
Yeah. Which I think is the first step, setting that intention, listening for consent.
Exactly. Or who shows up, right? And what was interesting was when I started this work, this most recent work working with the dead in my ancestry, I connected to my father's maternal line. And who came forward was this light. And I think it was like maybe 3 generations back. I have no idea. I've never met anybody from this lineage. So it's just a sense, a felt sense. And that's something else I want to just name is a lot of this work is intuitive. And so just have a soft focus. If you have stories about people, again, soft focus it because those stories are created from other people, which is created from their own lived experience. And so it's going to be biased, right? So how do you just feel into the energy of your ancestors with a soft focus and curiosity?
Yeah.
Knowing that no matter what they did or said, good or bad, they are unconditionally loved, just like you are. Okay. So when this ancestor came in, she was this bright white light. And all I could say was, is it okay that I'm here? And what I got back was, you're so silly. Of course, right? So the reason why I'm naming this particular thing is something that's embodied in me is this sense of unwelcoming and not belonging. My own stories from childhood, my own kind of preconceived notions. And so when this ancestor showed up, she's connected to roses. I just allowed her to just hold me. So I have my own light that I maintain, right, and protect. And this ancestor just covered around me in this warm and bright embrace. And I like snot cried. I was like sobbing, right? Because I couldn't believe that there's an ancestor who wanted me here on this planet. And it was just so sweet. And so now I can sense her. So I feel less alone and isolated, which is beautiful.
Good. Yeah. And even just seeing the way you're lighting up as you're talking about that's really powerful.
It just feels totally different to have someone in that realm, like looking out for me. I don't have to be like hyper vigilant on everything now.
That's right. Yeah. 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 So maybe that's something for the listeners to sit with here. Those of you listening, what would it be like to have spiritual support? No matter where you are, at any time. If you choose that, what would it be like to have that and or more of that in your life? My very first true taste of that was during quarantine. I felt very isolated, and I think a large part of my ancestral work opened up in 2020. And I was in ceremony a lot during that period of time, just spiritual ceremony, not plant medicine based. And it was incredibly helpful to feel like there was something else that was supporting me during that time when people could not show up, even if they wanted to. There are moments in our lives where fortifying ourselves with spiritual love is so important. Yeah. Or extra important. Yeah. One of the ways that I like to navigate or break down how easy it is to have these dialogues, because whenever I'm guiding people, I'll often hear people say, what do I ask? Or what do I say to them? And I say that so sweetly because it's very heartfelt when people ask that, right? It's like coming from a very tender place about how to engage with this energy. And what I'll often say is it's just like a human. You just introduce yourself. So you could use your full name. You could use anything you do know about your ancestry, where you grew up, where you live now. It doesn't have to be long. It's just here's who I am in like the context of who I am. And I'm coming to you looking to build a relationship. Are you open to that? Really that simple. It's just like you wouldn't walk into somebody's home and not introduce yourself. You would knock and say who you are and why you're there. That's the intention, the intentional piece.
Right.
Yeah. And then you listen.
And it's interesting too. So listening, then what's the next step, right? What's interesting for me is I have learned not to ask for help. And so one of the things that I'm understanding is our ancestors are there, accessible, and hopefully not meddling, especially the well ones aren't, because they understand that things are unfolding as they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And they're respecting that boundary of, I'm just going to let you make choices, right? Especially the well and wise ones. And so being able to ask for help and not feel shame about it or guilt is really important. For me, in my lived experience, asking for support brought a lot of shame because my caregivers were so under-resourced generationally due to their own trauma. So it felt like burdensome to ask for help. But now that I'm connected to some wise and well ancestors, I can ask, can you help me with this burden? Can you help me figure out what my next step is? Can you bring me some information that I might need about this particular situation? So it's a request that they can say yes or no to. But for me, it's practicing asking for support, not feeling burdensome around it. Because these are well and wise ancestors, and they want you to live.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. They want you to live.
They want you to live.
Yeah.
They want you to be free.
Yeah. And in my immediate ancestral origins, the story I was told is if you're asking for a higher or spiritual power to support you, then you don't believe enough in yourself. And so for me, it was like this tug of war around, oh, there must be something I can't do. I must be broken in some way if I need to ask for this support. Yeah. Yeah, I guess also for our listeners thinking about what messages have you received around spiritual support and calling that in.
I feel like I should name the trauma of spiritual support, which a lot of times is religion.
Yeah, true. Yep.
And the aversion some people have to that connection because it's cost them quite a bit, especially if they've been in harmful religions. So this is what Leah and I are suggesting is very different than a religion. And especially harmful religions that require you to believe certain things or do certain things to be allowed in or kept in or go to heaven, basically. Religion has been used as a means of control and weaponization. So I just want to make sure that that is very clear. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. Do you want to share the next invocation around the boundary that really stood out to you? Does that feel like the
Which boundary?
The one around.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is, I've been like, when I heard this, I've been like voice messaging all of my people, like, try this boundary. I had never considered this, okay? Which is basically, I withdraw consent to live my ancestors' burden in my body anymore. This has blown my brain. So I am of Chinese ancestry, and filial piety is one of those big things that we learned, which is basically you follow what your elders want at all cost, right? And I chose not to. And in that choice, I received what I was fearful of, which is an exile, right? Of no longer being connected because I might not have done what was expected of me.
Yeah.
And so being able to say that I have a choice, that I do not use this body, I no longer consent to use this body to be used in this particular way is huge. And I think other folks might relate to this. This might resonate for you of fear of expressing your needs and still belonging to the family system. So being able to say, I do not allow my ancestors' burdens to be lived through this body. When I said it, when I heard it, when I said it, and when I keep saying it, there is this sense of betrayal in me but aren't I supposed to carry these ancestral burdens with me to be a loyal descendant? Over and over again, when I connect to my functional adult or my wisest self or my higher spirit, it's no, you don't have to.
Yeah.
These are not your burdens. And so when I imagine myself putting the burdens back on the ancestors from which it came, or the time period from which it came, it might feel mean, right? But what I'm doing is I'm trusting their capability. This is not my burden. I'm handing it back to you, and I'm trusting however you need. You have spirit guides. It's not on me to clean up anymore.
Yeah.
I refuse to do that work. There's a lightness that comes, and then I connect to the wise and well ancestors that are like cheering, because I think just as when we're alive, if someone's unwell and wants you to do their work for them, we all know what narcissistic folks can do to us. If someone's calling us to do that, it feels very dense and heavy, versus health and wellness feels very light.
Yeah.
So it's just a discernment for how does it feel when you drop that burden.
Yeah.
For me, it feels guilty at first. And then when I have a hard boundary, I feel lighter afterwards. It's like this clearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Even you saying that helped me take a deep breath. Yeah.
I think a lot of people are unconscious to this.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. And I think there are a lot of reasons why. Yeah. And just as like I'm knocking at the door and saying, hey, this is who I am, and I'd love to have a relationship with you, we can also close that door part way. We can also close it all the way, right? There's a reason a door is on hinges, and we get to dictate wherever that door wants to land that day, that week, that experience. One of the things that I think a lot about too are even benevolent energies. There are times where I don't want communication from them because I really need to be in the pure essence of like myself and a client, for instance. And so I've set boundaries around that. I've set boundaries that I don't want the dead to talk to me through dreams. That is not a way that I want to be communicated with. So one of the things that was also really helpful for me is thinking about actually writing a list. Here are my boundaries, and here's what I'm available for. So that's the other thing to note here too, is just like humans, I think it's important that we not only set a boundary, but then say what we are available for.
Yes.
And so that might be a good practice for any of you that are really feeling like this is resonating, to write out that list. Here are my boundaries, and here's what I'm available for. Yeah.
And in case you don't know where to start, how I've discovered my boundaries is mainly from my boundaries being crossed.
Yeah.
So this is a kind of a active project, right? So if someone crosses your boundaries, uses you too much, that's okay. So I'm not available to be used at any given time. And then you can find the positive, which is I'm available for this. So you want to use any life experience to inform what your boundaries are, what you're open to, and what you're not open to. And what's beautiful about this, it's alive. You can change it. You can adjust it at any point, depending on your energy level, how your body's feeling. You can change this. Okay. So it's not a rigid thing.
Yeah. Doors.
Yes.
Doors are great metaphors right now. Hinges, screen doors, glass doors, right? Like there are so many variations of how doors can look and what they provide for us. And it's a very similar mechanism here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Like you can have an iron door where the gates are, and you can just even sense right now what it feels like to have that around your energetic boundary.
Yeah.
versus a clear glass door feels very different.
Yeah.
Versus a screen door. Yeah, so just play with that image, see what happens for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you notice how things shift, and then you collect more data. Does this feel like the right boundary? Is it a day or a week or a period of time where I need that door more open, or I need that glass door and not the iron door? Or
Yeah. Especially in these times, as you bring up this point that's really, I want a screen door when I'm feeling lonely and only after I vetted for safety. So if I'm feeling like I need connection to community or relationship that's healthy, I'll go through my vetted connections. So a wise and well ancestor, someone I can talk to this with, right? And then I'm going to open up my screen door and be like, hey, do you have time for me? I need 30 minutes, or can we go for a walk? And this practice of connecting safely, because historically communities have not been safe because of how people have used each other, because of how we were abused and used. So we keep replicating that trauma. So relearning how to fortify and heal your boundary then invites you how to have healthy and healed relationships with other people. You want to extend this out because right now we need to resource each other. We need to be in connection and community with each other in a healthy way.
Yeah. I love that. Any final thoughts?
I don't think so. I'm curious what you guys find, what y'all find. Please put it in the comments and share this with people who are needing some energetic support right now, which would be every single person on this planet.
Pretty much all of us.
Yeah. Do you have anything else, Leah?
I think my final comment is just how much, like, we are talking about specifics, but also being very vague. And it's so hard because this work it's a lifetime of unfolding. So I think I just want to say, like, for any of you that may be watching this and feeling like panicked or I got to figure this out right away, follow the breadcrumbs. It's a slow and steady unfolding. The more that you learn yourself, your lineages, and I think that's another thing I want to name here is, like, none of us have closed off access to this, whether you're adopted,
Exactly.
don't know any information about certain lineages or lines or all of them, like, none of this is inaccessible for you. And it is a lifetime process. So there is an intentionality to being vague in certain areas and an intentionality around being really specific in certain areas here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then on that note, what if you just believe you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now? And it is unfolding exactly as it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Just start at that.
Yeah.
Okay. And that this body, your body, is just the right body to be in to let this unfold right now.
That's right. Sending lots of love.
So much love and light.
Yeah.
And you're not alone. Thank
Yeah.
you, Leah. Take care.